In today's conversation, you're going to hear how the head of growth from one of the fastest up and coming software companies went from selling shoes in college to now helping thousands of sales reps across North America manage their commissions and succeed in selling. You're going to get a lot of value from this, so stay tuned.
Welcome to Seller's Journey, the podcast where we speak to great sales reps and leaders and share their real stories from start to sales success.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joseph Fung, and today we're speaking with Graham Collins, head of growth at QuotaPath. Graham, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Joseph?
Doing really well. Looking forward to this conversation. I always enjoy chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise.
So where are you calling in from today?
I am in sunny Austin, Texas.
Wicked. And life is good in Texas right now. We're up in Ontario, so we've got kind of a good connection between us today.
Yeah, it's good here. We had a bit of rain this weekend, but things are looking really bright and sunny here.
Awesome. So thinking a little bit about your journey, you've got some fun times. Maybe you can help our audience start off. Where did you grow up and where did you go to school?
Yeah, I grew up in Maine, so a little bit away from Texas. And went to college at a little business school called Babson College that's well known for entrepreneurship, but just about 2,000 students. So it's a little more unknown outside of the Northeast.
So one of the things that stuck out to me is your sales and entrepreneurial experience definitely started early. We joke about selling shoes, but maybe you can help our audience understand. What was the shoe connection there, and how is that your entree into sales?
Yeah, absolutely. Before shoes, I was a middle school DJ. I DJ'd middle school and high school dances with a set of PA equipment. But no, my first real job was selling shoes at a family-owned shoe store in Maine called Lamy Wellahan. And it was definitely a good exposure into sales. I earned commission. I was responsible for learning a whole training curriculum. Really wonderful organization to work for, and taught me a whole lot about sales and how to treat customers, because we were selling a pretty premium product. It wasn't you could go buy shoes a lot cheaper on Zappos.
So you had a good chance. You studied, it was like economics and marketing in college, but selling on the side. What I hear from a lot of folks is that they study marketing, but it doesn't prep them to sell. Did you see the same thing? How would you compare the two worlds?
Yeah, for sure. I think that most people who are interested in sales study marketing, because there are very few colleges that give you a sales major. I thought that a lot of the courses at Babson prepared me well for sales, not necessarily because it taught me negotiation, although I did take a great negotiation course, but because we had to do a lot of presentations. And so I had to get very familiar talking. And if I'm being honest with you, talking about things I didn't totally understand in front of a large group of people.
Wait, what sales reps never have to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Or college students for that matter. So giving presentations were a huge component of my time at Babson. Your freshman year, you're dropped into groups of 30 and you actually have to found a business. They grant you $5,000 at the time in 2007. I'm not sure what it is now. And you actually have to buy inventory and sell something. We actually sold shoes as well, sticking with the theme. But that was a great learning experience for me.
Okay, so you're selling shoes. You're applying your Babson college degree there, but you took a shift and went from selling goods to selling services and information. My media info. How did that happen? How did you land that first role?
Yeah, I remember going in for the interview and them saying, well, you don't have a background in sales, and this is a full cycle account executive position. This was a little bit pre kind of the SDR style role. And I was saying, well, no, I have a background in sales. I sold shoes for 6 or 7 years. And I think they probably hid their scoffs. But I do believe that it gave me a good background in selling to people, and really a big thing is just finding out where their value lies, and finding a way of pitching your services to meet their needs.
So I was speaking to a couple of our students, the Uvaro students recently. One had been selling advertising, one had been selling Harley Davidsons, and now they're getting into tech.
Yeah.
And one of the things that keeps popping up is, how do you properly portray that experience and convey value? And you did exactly that. So, I'd love to hear, what are some of the things that you think you did well, or some of the things you coach, people to do now that they're trying to make that same leap, whether that's from shoes or Harley Davidsons into selling software. What do you suggest people keep in mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are, I hate the question, what keeps you up at night? But that's a really big thing, is that you have to not only sell business value, but you have to sell personal value, and finding out what is important to people by asking questions. I very rarely answer questions, as opposed to asking an additional question in response to a question asked to me by a prospect. So I'd say that's the most important thing, is as soon as, especially early stage reps are asked a question, oftentimes they just rush to the answer, as opposed to asking a question in return and getting more information. Because generally the first question somebody asks is not what they want to know. It's what's top of mind for them.
So if I think about that, I know I'm asking you to kind of cast your mind back, but are there any examples where you had to do that, discovery and deep dive when you were selling shoes? Because I understand your comments, and I struggle to imagine selling shoes and applying that. So, would love to hear, is there a specific example that you gave, or way that you conveyed that when you were switching from shoes to information?
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up using a lot of my shoe sales experience, and I have a very vivid memory of an example where I was selling a pair of shoes, and again, there are sandals sitting out there for $19 a pair that I could have sold, and I had sandals out back for $200, $300, $400 a pair. And again, it was a kind of a specialty shoe store, and so really, a person came in. She said she wanted a pair of sandals. She brought me the box, or she asked for a size, and I brought them to her. And she started walking around them, and I saw that she was kind of wincing a little bit. And I was like, how are those? How do they fit? And instead of just immediately being like, okay, cool, you want to buy those shoes? She was like, they fit pretty well. But then saying, well, I saw you wince a little bit. Like, what's going on? And she had what's called a hammer toe, if we're going to get really specific here, in the shoe terminology. And so anyway, long story short, I asked about what each of her symptoms were, and what was going on, and was able to get her into a pair of $250 sandals that she ended up writing me a thank you card afterwards, because when she was wearing the sandals, they entirely did away with all of her pain. And it was a win-win, because I was earning commission off of that. So I made quite a bit of money off of it, and she totally did away with all of her foot pain.
That's fantastic. That is a fantastic example. I'm really glad I asked that question. That's
yeah,
that's a gold mine right there. So thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Okay, so my media info. This is kind of the first full cycle AE rule. What is it that you had to sell, and what was that motion like?
Yeah. So again, full cycle, cold call all the way through to negotiate and close. I was selling two major things: a journalist database. So think of it as kind of like a Zoom info, but for journalists. And I was selling media monitoring services. So brands could use it to track what was being said about their company within the news.
So thinking a little bit about those, it would have been an entirely different buyer than the time at Lamey Wellhen.
Yeah, yes, certainly. Very, very different. Yep. I mean, maybe the same people, but buying totally different things, I suppose.
Okay. So yeah, I'm sure, you applied to that role with some expectations, and you stayed in that space for several years, multiple companies. What's surprised you the most? What was the biggest gap between what you thought you were getting into and what that experience was actually like?
Yeah, a big thing within shoes is you don't often require multiple demos and negotiation and follow up and involving other people in the decision.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty drastic change for me, was going from the transactional model of somebody wants to buy a pair of Uggs, they can come in, I fit them for a pair of Uggs, they walk out with the Uggs, to I cold call somebody, tell them what we do, set a meeting, I run the meeting, they bring their boss in, we run a demo, we negotiate, they run a trial, and then they decide whether to buy or not to buy. And so that was a big change for me, was learning that the sales process has more than the greeting, fitting of the shoes or software, and close.
Okay. So now if we reflect back, I mean, as a head of growth, you're now, responsible for hiring, staffing decisions, you work with thousands of sales reps. As you're looking to reps or looking to hire reps, if you're trying to assess that ability to run a process, if somebody is coming out of a transactional business, if you're interviewing a shoe sales rep now, what are some of the things that you might look for to gauge their ability to navigate that change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that one of the major things that I look for within interview processes and early stage employees is curiosity. Whether you ask questions and engaged questions, as opposed to just, what's the culture like? Asking engaged questions about research you've done or things that I've said previously within the interview. That shows me that you have the ability to think longer term than just getting the quick answer to, are you going to buy? One of my favorite questions is, who else needs to be involved in this decision? Instead of, is there anybody else that needs to be involved in this decision? And so questions like that, where, if I'm interviewing somebody and they say, what are the next steps in the interview process? That's an okay question, but saying, I saw that your boss is Kevin McEwen and the CEO is Eric Huddleston. I have to imagine that the VP of sales is probably involved in the decision early on when it comes to hiring a sales rep. Am I going to have a chance to meet with Kevin before we move forward or don't move forward? That's a much better question to me as part of an interview process.
That's such a fantastic takeaway. I'm going to snag that language specifically to share with a couple of people. I love that. Thank you.
Of course.
Thinking a little bit about your journey, I'd love to fast forward a little bit. QuotaPath, head of growth. This isn't about pitching your company, the product, but you have some pretty cool stuff. Maybe you can help our audience. What is the elevator pitch? What does QuotaPath do?
Yeah. So we are a commission tracking tool. We help salespeople find out how much they have earned on deals that they've already closed, but also how much they will earn on deals that they're currently working on, that are in their pipeline. Kind of bring it back to the whole pipeline discussion.
Now, earlier we had the chance to talk about kind of goal setting and managing your growth, and I'd love to hear your take on this. I mean, I'm not trying to be glib, but why does QuotaPath matter? Isn't the company responsible for logging my commission and reporting on it? Like, what's the purpose there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet a lot of your listeners are thinking to themselves, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I keep in order to track this. And that's something that I kept for years and years. I still have it on my computer. I pull it up on demos sometimes. It's from 2011 to 2014. I have all of the deals that I closed, the amount of commission I earned on it, and whatnot. And the major reason that I did that is a ton of research I've done. And I'm sure you can link to Harvard Business case studies and whatnot about the more you track your progress towards a goal, and this goes for weight loss, this goes for sales, this goes for growth, the more you track your progress towards that goal, the more likely you are to achieve it. And the same thing can be done. It can be done in an Excel spreadsheet. Obviously, without getting too pitchy, QuotaPath allows you to do it as well. But even if it's a post-it on your monitor that says, I'm going to make 100 cold calls today, or I'm going to send 50 emails today, and you check off every single email you sent, the more likely you are to achieve that because you're tracking your progress towards it.
That's awesome. I think we do a pretty good job of not making this show too pitchy, but I'm sure people will forgive me if we do this every so often. But if people did want to try it out, I know you've got a solution that's free for reps, so I think our audience will appreciate that. Where would they go to do that?
Yeah, just quotapath.com. And you can sign up for a free account, connect your Salesforce, and track your commissions and your quota attainment, your progress towards your goals automatically.
Cool. That's helpful. I'm going to come back to that. We'll make sure we link to it in the description. But coming back again to your journey, you've had kind of the really fortunate opportunity to switch into tech, have a ton of great success there. But of all of those steps and all those moves, what are you most proud of so far? What would you consider your biggest accomplishment?
Yeah, my biggest accomplishment, I think, is actually a woman that I used to work with. Her name's Lily Yoon. She is leading actually building out a sales development organization right now. But I would say that she kind of acts as the bellwether of my success when it came to at Trendkite, which was my previous organization, the promotions and the growth that I was able to see within the people that work for me. So Lily started as an SDR. She became a senior SDR. She was one of the hardest workers, one of the best SDRs we had. We were able to then promote her into a manager, which was incredible. She was the best manager I had working on my team, working for me, which no offense to anybody else who worked for me as a manager. And then when I actually left Trendkite, I spent about 6 months preparing her to take over my role for me. So
Wow.
I would say that Lily kind of marks my crowning achievement, which has always been the people who worked for me being very successful in the world.
I love how you measured your own accomplishment in the progress of others. That's wonderful. Casting your eyes forward, though, what else do you still hope to accomplish? If we were chatting to Graham of 10 years in the future, what would you hope to congratulate him for having done?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. 10 years down the line, current company QuotaPath, I'd love to see that into a successful SaaS organization as well. The past two companies I started with as early stage employees have gone through acquisitions, have gone through exits, which has been really great. And so I'd love to see QuotaPath go through that. And then I'd really love to start working with entrepreneurs and in investment and advising in helping them grow, whether it's a sales team or an SDR organization, or helping them really generate revenue out of the activities that they're doing.
That's great. Given your track record, I'm sure you're going to see that same success this time around as well.
Sure hope so.
So I've got a couple of rapid fire questions, and then we can let you get back to changing the lives of sales reps.
Sure.
You ready for them?
I am.
Okay. Now we know that you made some money as a DJ. But if we think back to your earliest kind of childhood objectives, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man. Initially a professional wrestler, but I'm not really sure why. I don't really know what that was about. But when I entered high school, I had a teacher named Ozzie Holt, who was a businessman, retired businessman, who became a high school teacher because I think he was bored. And so I really wanted to be a business person for a long time.
There you go.
Which is a weird thing to be a child wanting that, but that's the way it is.
You're hoping to get that briefcase and everything?
Yeah, I carried a briefcase in high school. I was a nerd.
There you go.
A briefcase full of magic cards.
I could imagine. That is such a great visual. Thank you. Okay, so you've had a chance to sell, your own services as a DJ, shoes, PR services, software. In all of that, over all that journey, what's been your favorite sales tool?
Oh man, I think that call recording. I had way back in the day, I had we're not really that far back in the day, but even had just like a manual recorder that plugged into my phone, recording calls, listening to yourself speak. It's one of the most painful things that people do. Most people hate hearing their own voice. But the more you listen to it, and my pro tip is to speed it up by like 10% or 20%, then it doesn't sound like you. So it's not as big of a deal for you to listen to it. And there are countless tools to do it now, but I would say that call recording in any format is my favorite sales tool.
Great. I love that. And then one more personal one, outside of work, movies. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, The Iron Giant.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Yep. I have one tattoo, and it's the Iron Giant holding up. There's words underneath him that say "You are who you choose to be," which is a line from the movie The Iron Giant.
You are who you choose to be. I love that. Definitely gonna pull that quote out. That's a fantastic one. Graham, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really fun getting to chat with you.
And some fantastic insights. There's a ton of value in this, and I'm sure that beyond just checking out QuotaPath, a bunch of our audience is going to get value out of your answers. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. And I'm always happy to connect with any of your listeners as well on LinkedIn.
Well, if you heard that, Graham's LinkedIn link as well as the QuotaPath site are in the description, so you can reach out and hit him up there because he mentioned it. So fair game.
There you go. I always tell people I bought meetwithgraham.com. If you go to meetwithgraham.com, that's my calendar. So if you're feeling really bold, you can just book time with me.
Perfect. Graham, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, likewise. Great chatting with you, Joseph.
Likewise. We'll chat again soon.
Sounds good. Bye.